When we think successful construction, our minds probably jump to like massive steel beams, solid foundations, the finished building. But what if the real blueprint for success is actually hidden in the challenges you can't even see? That's exactly what we're going to dig into today by looking at R.McKinley construction.
All right, let's kick things off with a big question. What do you think is the single biggest challenge in construction today? Seriously, think about it. The answer to this really gets to the core of what makes or breaks a project. And you know what? The answer might surprise you. It's almost never just about the concrete or the steel. Nope. It's usually something way more complex, something kind of hidden just under the surface. Yeah, sometimes the biggest hurdles are the ones you'd never think of. I'm talking about stuff like, how do you keep a hospital fully operational during a massive remodel? Or what about getting every single worker to pass an FBI background check just to build on a military flight line? Or, get this, building on a site that's literally boxed in on 3 sides. These aren't hypotheticals. These are the real-world puzzles that truly define a project's success. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? True mastery in this field isn't just about knowing how to build. It's about being an absolute expert at solving these incredibly unique, often invisible problems that pop up on every single job. All right, first up, let's tackle one of the trickiest situations imaginable, building in a live, active environment. We're talking about a level of precision that is, well, it's basically surgical.
Okay, check this out. We've got 2 medical projects here, Central Coast Orthopedics and Radiology Associates. Both had the exact same massive challenge. How on earth do you renovate a busy medical facility without disrupting patient care? And the answer wasn't just about swinging hammers carefully. It was all about finesse. Things like meticulous construction phasing, constant coordination, and even bringing on extra staff just to help guide patients safely. You see a clear, repeatable strategy emerging here for these super sensitive jobs.
And what does it all boil down to? Communication. This quote here says it all. The key wasn't just the blueprints, it was the constant back and forth with the doctors and the medical staff. It's about creating a true partnership to protect that patient experience, which, let's be honest, is the #1 priority in a place like that.
Okay, so from sensitive environments, let's pivot to another kind of challenge, projects with really specialized demands. We're talking everything from top-tier security to incredibly strict green building standards.
So just imagine trying to build something on an active military flight line. This was the case at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. And let me tell you, this is not your average construction site. First, you've got this massive vendor application to prove you're qualified. Then, every single person, down to the last laborer, has to pass a full FBI background check. And on top of all that, they need special training just to drive around without causing a major incident. That's a huge amount of work and security to clear before you can even think about construction. But all that intense, upfront work, it pays off big time. It was that proactive, super thorough approach that made it possible for them to build a specialized shelter for F-18 fighter jets. I mean, we're talking about a critical piece of military hardware that's now protected, which keeps our military ready and saves taxpayers millions. The process made the project possible. Simple as that. All right, so let's switch gears from military security to a completely different kind of specialty, sustainability. We've all probably heard the term LEED certified thrown around, right? But what does it actually mean on a job site? Well, it's this globally recognized gold standard for buildings that are healthy, super efficient, and good for the planet. It's like playing the game with a totally different set of rules. So for one of their projects for the state of California, getting that LEED certification was a huge undertaking. We're talking about sourcing really specific, unique materials and then juggling, get this, 22 different pre-qualified subcontractors. And all of this while trying to get approvals from a bunch of different government agencies that don't always talk to each other. It just goes to show you, this is a whole other level of complex expertise. Okay, so we've seen them handle complex operations and tricky regulations. Now let's look at a challenge that's just pure physics. Trying to solve the logistical puzzle of a building site that's, well, seriously boxed in. 3. Just 3. What on earth could that number mean for a multi-million-dollar construction project? That's the number of sides the Cuesta Rosa assisted living project was completely landlocked on. Can you even imagine that? Trying to build a massive 30,000 square foot building with only one way in and one way out? For everything, for everyone. That's not just a challenge, that is a logistical nightmare.
And that one single problem created this huge domino effect of other challenges. Because access was so tight, they had to carve these massive 16-foot faces into the existing landscape. They had to be incredibly careful with shoring because they were right up against neighboring properties. And of course, safety protocols had to be ramped up to a whole other level. Every single move was magnified by that insane lack of space. Okay, so we've looked at 3 totally different kinds of challenges, right? Operational, regulatory, and physical. Now's the part where we pull it all together and really see the blueprint for success, that core methodology that's working underneath it all. And here's what's so fascinating. When you look across all these different projects, a super clear pattern starts to show up. This isn't just luck, it's a repeatable system. You see proactive planning and consistent communication. Well, that consistent communication, that's how you keep a hospital running smoothly during a reno. Meticulous coordination, that's how you build on a site with only one way in. And proactive planning, that's how you get an entire crew to pass FBI background checks. See? These aren't just corporate buzzwords. They're the actual, practical solutions to the crazy problems we just talked about. Which brings us to the final and maybe most important point. All of this, it's not just about a process for putting up walls and roofs. It's about a process for building something way more valuable in the long run. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. No matter what kind of crazy challenge you throw at them, operational, regulatory, logistical, you name it, the solution always comes from the same place. It comes from a system built on real expertise, nonstop communication, and ultimately the kind of trust you can only earn by proving you can handle the tough stuff over and over again. And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When you're choosing a partner for your next big project, what are you really looking for? Are you just looking for a builder, or are you looking for a proven problem solver? A team that you know can handle all the inevitable, unforeseen challenges that are definitely going to pop up along the way.